topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Hello and welcome to Fearless, Fabulous You. I am your host, Melanie Young, and it's good to be back. I've taken a few weeks off, so if I look different or sound a little husky in my voice or take time to cough, it's because I recently had 2 surgeries, well, a recent one in the past 2 weeks, to finish hopefully my final surgery for breast reconstruction. And that's what we're going to talk about today, my first day back on Fearless, Fabulous You. I've had 4 sets of breasts. I don't know if it's something to be proud about, but that's the truth. Why? Because in 2009, I was diagnosed with breast cancer in both breasts, August 2009. And I underwent a double mastectomy at Memorial Sloan Kettering. About the time I was choosing my breast surgeon, I was asked, "What are your plans for reconstruction?" Well, I had no idea because I'd just been diagnosed with breast cancer and I was already gobsmacked about that. And suddenly I had to make this major decision about whether I was going to get new breasts or not. Well, I wanted new breasts. I just didn't want to not have breasts. It was at that point a very busy time of the year in my public relations business. I mean, I had so many events to produce around the country. I was like, how am I going to fit breast cancer into my busy business and work schedule, traveling and jetting and doing and eating and drinking? It was overwhelming. So I didn't do that much homework. I just asked my girlfriend, Melanie, what she did, because she had had breast cancer the day before and she had had breast implants. So I was like, okay, I'll do breast implants. Sounds easy. Because my other option was natural tissue restoration, and that I was told would be a surgery that would follow my mastectomy, and it would be 8 hours and a longer downtime. And it sounded very complicated and scary because the word downtime meant I wasn't going to be running my business and making any money to pay for all this. Fortunately, insurance paid for it, but I still had to earn a living to pay my bills. If you are anyone who has a job, a career, a business, and you're watching or listening to this, you know how I was feeling. Like, how am I going to do all this? So I chose to get implants, and then I learned I could pick my own breasts. So my husband and I we interviewed different plastic surgeons, or they call them reconstructive surgeons in insurance. And I chose a wonderful guy, Dr. Joseph Deesa at Memorial Sloan Kettering. I have now learned one of the great breast implant czars of all times. He's just a master. And I just immediately clicked with him. He liked wine. I liked wine. He liked Brunello di Montalcino. I liked Brunello di Montalcino. And I liked his handiwork. So I got to pick my breasts. So out comes Dr. Zaid with all these implants hanging from their fingertips. And I got to squeeze them and touch them and look at them. So I chose these ones that look like breasts because some of them didn't, called the 410s. They were also called gummy bears because they felt like those gummies that you buy, at the store, or if you're at a gummy, they had that texture. So I chose those. And for the next 10 months after my mastectomy, while I was going through 6 months or 8 months of chemo, I've lost track, I would go and get my chest pumped up with some kind of solution that would basically expand my chest, boom, 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 to be able to have inserts put in. No one never told me that whole expansion time would be painful. It felt like every time they were blowing me up, it was like boom, boom, and it really hurt. And I was just walking around like this, you know, with these like blow ups on my chest. They were hard as rocks. One of my fellow survivors for my book, Getting Things Off My Chest, where I recount this entire scenario. There's the copy. We're going to leave it up. Third edition, long new edition with reconstruction based on what I'm talking about. It felt like coconuts coming off her forehead. It was really hard. So finally, the day of reckoning came. It was like, I think August. No, brain. October 2010, and they put the implants in. Boom, boom. It was another surgery. Boom, boom. They sewed me up. And off I went with new breasts. They were hard as rocks. Always. And they were made of silicone. They were shaped like the shape I picked. They were hard as rocks. I couldn't sleep on my chest. When it was cold, they got cold. They were temperature sensitive. So if I go in a grocery store in the summer, I was freezing from the air conditioning. If I went swimming in a cold swimming pool, I was freezing. If it was snowing and cold outside, which it was where I was living in the Hudson Valley, I was freezing. Not only was I freezing in my chest, but it would go down my arms and my hands, and I developed Raynaud's. This went on for years. Okay. I just endured these and prayed that this would all dissipate, but it didn't. Moreover, the implants were under my chest muscle because I have thin chest skin, and I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. I had to use my elbow to get in a car. Everything was just numb all the time. If I was gripping too much, raising a wine bottle was hard. Figure that one out. Anyway, flash forward. It's the pandemic. It's 2020. The early part of 2020, or maybe 2019, early 2020, before the pandemic. And I get this letter from my surgeon, the great Dr. Joseph Diza, saying that my implants, the 410 gummy bears, as we call them, were recalled by the Food and Drug Administration. Yeah, the FDA. Why? Because they were linked potentially to a rare form of lymphoma. Well, the last thing I wanted to get was lymphoma. I didn't want to have cancer anymore. I also didn't want any more surgery, but I was given the option to have the implants removed, so I didn't have that constant worry, and have them replaced with another type of implant. Well, that said two things. One, I could get rid of the risk of a foreign body, a substance in my body, giving me more cancer. Insurance would cover this, and health insurance, and I could get new breasts, and maybe they'd be more comfortable. So I went back in May 2020, in the middle of, or April 2020, in the middle of the pandemic. I go down to meet with Dr. Diza. The city's shut down. I'm wearing a mask. We're all super careful. And I picked saline implants. Why? Because saline are a little squishier and feel more breasty versus hard rocks. They were not going to be temperature sensitive, which means that I hopefully would eliminate the constant freezing I was having anytime somebody would give me iced tea. It was in air conditioning. It was cold, constant shivering. So I chose saline implants. So in June 2020, my husband and I took a car service. Actually, a social worker at Memorial Sloan Kettering was great help. Always consult with a social worker. They can get you help. And one of the things they did was give me a complimentary car service to come into the city from New York City, from the Hudson Valley, so I could safely, without contamination by anybody, go straight to surgery. I had the surgery. I stayed overnight. I had these new implants. They were softer. They were still hard, but they were softer. And I didn't have as much temperature sensitivity, but I still had some. However, Dr. Diza said, I'm sorry, but I still had to put them under your chest muscle because you have really thin breast skin and we're afraid it could rip. Well, okay, fine. Except I still had mobility issues because I couldn't move. The dang breasts were under my chest muscle. Years went on. we moved from the Hudson Valley. We lived on the road. If you follow me on Melanie Fabulous or the Connected Table, you know our saga. We sold everything to get out of debt, left the Hudson Valley, lived on the road debt free during the pandemic, and just lived like nomads. It was a carefree time and everything was la di da. And then we had to move home to take care of my mother, and everything was la di da. But when we, around 2023, 2024, I started to notice that every time I flex my chest or try to do anything, I was still having trouble with mobility issues. I couldn't have difficulty riding a bike, lifting the wine bottle, using a knife, you name it. And then over time, we noticed that my right implant was shrinking. Yeah, it was kind of going, and it was also shifting, going up a little here. So I was starting to look a little lopsided. I asked my husband, I said, "Do you think my breasts look all lopsided?" And he said, "Yeah, they're starting to look lopsided." And I was like, is it possible that one of my implants sprung a leak? Because that could happen. So it's July 2025. Now, this all started back in 2009, remember? So we're 15 years. No, I can't count. I don't have any math. Whatever it is, 2009 to 2025. I'd already written my book, Getting Things Off My Chest, A Survivor's Guide to Staying Fearless and Fabulous in the Face of Breast Cancer. I had already updated my book twice. The third edition not only discussed the whole episode with getting my implants exchanged from silicone to saline, but I also added an entire section on choosing to not reconstruct at all, which many women are choosing not to do because they don't want anything artificial in there. They don't want any more surgery, or they don't want any more artificial things in their body, or maybe they're having their breast implants removed because they're having discomfort or issues like I did. It's July 2025, and I'm now living in New Orleans, where I still am in love. And it so happens there is a hospital here dedicated to breast reconstruction. That's all they do. Natural tissue breast reconstruction. Now, if you remember when the beginning of this show started, I said I was given an option of natural tissue breast reconstruction, but dismissed it because it involved a lot of time under surgery and a lot of time for recovery. But what I did mention is I was also a little skinny mini back then, and I didn't have a lot of body fat or tissue to take from my torso and hips and thighs to create breasts. So it would have involved more work to find the fat in my body, which meant more sutures and whatnot, and I just didn't want any of it. By 2025, well over a decade later, I had put on some weight, so I had the fat. So I scheduled a consultation with a doctor, a surgeon at the Center for Restorative Breast Surgery here in New Orleans. They are specialists. In fact, they're pioneers, underscore, in the process of deep flat and other types, tram flat, and other types of natural tissue breast restoration. What does that mean? It means taking your own body's fat and tissue, healthy tissue, and they liposuct it. They take it out surgically and they build new breasts. So you basically have new breasts. It's a very intricate surgery of your own body tissue. So when you gain weight, they gain weight. When you lose weight, they lose weight. They feel natural. They move. They're not artificial. They're your own body. It's a very specialized, intricate surgery that takes like 8 hours. So during my consult, they took lots of pictures of me. I'm so used to being photographed naked. I don't care anymore. They took lots of pictures. They zeroed in on my muffin top and my thighs and hips, where I was told, "Josh, you have enough fat and tissue, but you could actually use more." So, hey, I was given a license to eat and drink more, which was just great. I was like, sure, I can do that. I can keep eating and drinking to put on more weight, to get more fat. What a great assignment. Anyway, seriously, I loved my doctor. He was Whitwise, my girlfriend Julie had also gone to him after she'd had a double mastectomy and natural tissue restoration. So I did the consult, and I decided, after talking it over with my husband David and giving it some thought and doing my research and reading breastcenter.com's extensive and helpful website, I decided to schedule surgery for October 25th, 2025. This was July, so that gave me plenty of time to get all my traveling in, allow and schedule downtime, because I was told I would need a good 6 to 8 weeks downtime, and eat and drink to gain more weight. I wouldn't normally recommend that, and I didn't go crazy, but I didn't hold back either. Anyway, I went in for the surgery. The center is so detailed and special. Here's an interesting fact. 70% of the patients who come to have surgery at the Center for Restorative Breast Surgery are from out of state. That's how world-renowned they are. In fact, they kept asking me where I lived, and I was always surprised. I said, I'm local. I'm New Orleans. I'm here. Anyway, I went in. I was, for any surgery, you've got to prepare your body. So here are a couple of tips. Start sooner than later, like at minimum 2 to 3 weeks, better 4. Getting your diet into shape, getting your body into shape. Stop drinking alcohol, or at least taper down, and get good night's sleep, and make sure you are in good shape physically and mentally for surgery. You will get a detailed list of things to do and not to do, like don't take ibuprofen because it's not great for healing and cause bruising. That also is if you get Botox, and other directions. And then the night before the surgery, I ate a healthy meal. I did not drink wine. I'd been off wine, and I bathed in this antibacterial called Hibiclens. It was the same antibacterial wash I used for my double mastectomy and my other surgeries. And then after 11 p.m. at night, no more eating and drinking, got a good night's sleep. The next day, we went to the hospital, where I was marked up all over the place to show where they were going to cut and take fat. And I just looked like a giant map. And I was given an IV'd. That hurts. I never seem to have, when you don't eat and drink a lot in the morning, you also don't have good veins. I still have bruises on my arm from the last surgery. Anyway, they got me in. I consulted with the anesthesiologist. Now, mind you, I neglected to say I did a lot of pre-surgical testing, which you will be asked to do. You will do pre-surgical testing within 4 weeks of your surgery. Do it. Get your EKG in, make sure your blood work is in, make sure there are no red flags, and make sure that your primary care physician is on board all the way so he or she knows what's going on. Okay, so I had done my pre-surgical testing. Everything tested out great. I had gone off vitamins. I had gone off ibuprofen. I had gone off everything. No pills except for my blood pressure, my gastroesophageal reflux, and my cholesterol medicine. I was okay to take those as directed, but nothing else. You have to have all that information on a list when you go in, to make sure you do not hold anything back. Big, big, big underscore is do not smoke. If you smoke, stop. Period. Don't smoke. If you smoke and you don't want to stop at least 6 to 8 weeks before your surgery. I'm telling you, that is a big problem in the healing process, smoking. So stop. Period. You really increase your risk. So I felt good going into surgery. I was in a good mood. I lay in the gurney. My husband was allowed to come in. I had the IV fluids going in. The doctor came in, and the nurse came in. Another nurse came in. The whole team came in. Everybody came in. And then they wheeled me into surgery. They started administering my general anesthesia. And I can't tell you anything else because I was out. But I can tell you that with general anesthesia, you get a breathing tube. And I could play around with your vocal cords, because after my surgeries, all of them, I have lost my voice, and I still am a little scratchy, if you can tell. which is why I haven't been doing any live shows and why I'm going to take a glass of water. It's very common with general anesthesia. I woke up totally groggy on the other side. I was told the surgery went well. I stayed 2 nights in the hospital. I had these, much like with my double mastectomy, I had these pressure socks on that were mechanized, and they were squeezing my calves to make sure that I didn't get a blood clot, because a big high risk of all surgeries, particularly with general anesthesia, is the risk of a pneumonia, pulmonary embolism, or a blood clot. You're not moving, you're lying down, you've been pumped with anesthesia, your body's at a very super weak point, you've lost blood, and you're at high risk for those things. My mother actually got double pneumonia and a pulmonary embolism after her hip surgery to replace a broken fractured hip. And it was scary, really scary. She had to end up in the hospital and the ER and take all these pills because a pulmonary embolism can be fatal. So I left the hospital totally woozy and so weak after the second day of my first surgery. Now, let me just stop here. Natural tissue restoration is a 2-part surgery. First of all, there's different kinds of natural tissue restoration, and you will discuss with your surgeon what is best for you. I'm just going to refer to the book here. My section here, by the way, is called My Road to Reconstruction. And it was a road because it has a long section. So the pros for natural tissue and why I decided to remove my implants, besides the fact one was shrinking and potentially leaking, is that you are using your own skin and tissue and fat versus implanting a foreign object. Your body, this is important, your body can reject an implant, but your body cannot reject its natural tissue. That's important. Your breasts look and feel natural. I can attest to that. I can't keep my hands off of them. They feel so good. Your breasts will regain, this is important, normal sensation once your nerves regenerate. I can tell you now, I have more sensation in my breast for the first time in almost 15 years than before. There was no sensation with implants. You also get the bonus of a tummy tuck or a butt tuck. It's a bonus, but it is painful because that's where they're going to take most of your fat, from your tummy or your butt, depending on the procedure. If you gain or lose weight, your breasts will adapt as well. So you're natural. The cons, it's a more complicated surgery with additional risk, i.e. infection, blood clots, necrosis of the transferred tissue. That one was a scary one for me, and I'll discuss it later. Your recovery time will be longer, and you will have more drains to deal with. I had 4 drains for the first surgery. And then, as I said, it's a 2-part surgery. For the second surgery, which I had quite recently, it was 1 drain. I'll get to that. There's additional scarring on your body. Yes, I have a bikini scar. The doctors and surgeons at the Center for Restorative Breast Surgery specialize in having the best bikini scar possible, as in they make it refined so you don't see it. And you will have some scars on your breasts. With the surgery, you may have weaker stomach muscles, so you'll need to undergo physical therapy, which I will be doing to strengthen your core. However, I had bad core muscles beforehand and a bad back, which actually they repaired as part of my second surgery, which I'll get into. Most of these surgeries cannot be redone. So for me, this is my last surgery. So the deep flap is the one I had, which was abdominal skin and fat to reconstruct, but leaves the muscle in place. Very important. There's also SIA flap, superficial inferior epigastric artery, which uses skin, fat, and tissue from the abdomen. And then there's also, you can take fat from your butt and your back and your sides. Fortunately for me, I had enough fat in my stomach. We also, for the second surgery, took some out of my thighs. Okay, recovery. So from the first surgery in October, unfortunately, I developed the dreaded necrosis and infection in my suture. It's rare. I got it. I probably did something. I don't know. I mean, you have to be really careful after surgery. I took a long walk one day. I noticed it was kind of crusty on my sweatpants from my incision. Maybe something got infected that way. I'll never know, but I had to have an emergency surgery, opened up, all the mess and infection removed, re-sewn up. That added another 2 weeks to my recovery. It was not good, but I knew to take a picture of what I suspected was an infection. I emailed it to my surgeon's nurse. She said, we're going to put you on antibiotics immediately. Don't eat anything after 11 p.m. and you come in the morning and we're going to look at this and decide what to do. And the decision was to have a quick emergency surgery. Fortunately, not anything. I'm okay. I took time to recover. It took a long time. I could barely walk. I could barely stand up because I was hunched over because there was this suture was killing me. It took a while to sit up straight and be able to walk straight and get my voice back, which brings me to the second surgery. My second surgery, which you can do 3 months after the first, I scheduled after Mardi Gras and after a major trip to Tuscany for the end of February 2026. That surgery was roughly 4 hours. They went in, they liposucked my stomach and sides and thighs and filled out my upper breasts and any indentations to make them look even better, more full and more natural. They look gorgeous. No cutting or anything up here. They also, my surgeon noticed that my stomach had some they did something called the stomach abdominal plication to tighten up the muscles in my stomach. And they also found an umbilical hernia, which they removed. So there was a mess down there. And they said that was probably what was causing a lot of my back issues for all this time. So guess what? I don't seem to have any more back pain. I have a lot of pain right now, which I'll get into, but not a lot of back pain. So that surgery was February 26th. I had a lot of breathing issues. I had developed a little bit of, I had just flown. Okay, number one, don't fly before your surgery or after. Dumb move on my part. I'd gone to Italy for a wine program, and I didn't allow enough time between the trip coming back and the surgery, I think, because I had a little bit of a stuffed head when I went in. I got tested for COVID. I got tested for everything. Everything was negative. But I did discuss with my anesthesiologist. I said, am I still okay to do the surgery? They said, fine. This surgery went fine, except I had a lot of respiratory issues afterward, which can happen after a general anesthesia. So with an abundance of caution, you're given a spirometer, which you breathe into. It's like a breathing machine. You have to take deep breaths. You have to do that 10 times every hour to get your lungs moving again after lying flat and being under for so long. I became more diligent about doing it after the second surgery, and that I didn't do so well the first surgery, but I also had lost my voice and I was coughing. So for abundance of caution, I went and had a chest x-ray, and I had a little bit of what they call pleural emissions on my lungs, which is some water on the lungs, which is very common after general anesthesia. But as abundance of caution, I went to the ER and had a CAT scan of my chest to make sure I did not have the dreaded pulmonary embolism or blood clot. By then I was scared shitless and just said, what can I do to not get a blood clot or pulmonary embolism? So I followed the rules, slept, doubled my protein intake, did my spirometer machine. That's what you got to do. Started walking a little bit, but also rested a lot. As of yesterday, I've stopped coughing. It's almost 2 weeks. 2 weeks surgery out will be tomorrow, Thursday. Today, I actually have a voice, and this is my first show. I'm still scratchy in the throat, but it also could be spring allergies, which are also exacerbating everything here in New Orleans. The bottom line is I'm still quite fatigued and quite weak, and I know it, and I am taking the time needed to heal. I'm following the rules to the T, and I'm not going out. I'm just resting. I'm doing this show as a test to see how I hold up. I think I'm holding up okay, even though my voice is going. But I'll see my doctor for my 2-week post-op. Now, here's the thing, and I have enough time. In the second surgery, there's a lot of liposuction, and you're probably thinking, wow, a tummy tuck, how great, all the no, that just sounds, it's like a mommy makeover. But let me give you forewarning, you will wear a tight, very tight corset. It's not a Spanx. It's a black, tight, thick corset for 6 weeks. David has to help me get dressed every morning. It kind of goes like this. I have this corset. I can only take it off to shower, maximum 45 minutes after we're around the clock for 6 weeks. In the heat, New Orleans. He has to help me into it. It's tighter than you can even imagine. It's making me sit up straight. I will say this is probably helping my back. It's crotchless because when you have to do your business, you can't take it off. I can't even take it off. David has to help me. It is not comfortable, but I'm learning to adapt and use humor to deal with it, particularly when I have to do my business. I have an extra large one because the other one was just really cramping me and making me cough more. And now I'm wearing my small one, which is probably why I'm getting hoarse. I have to wear for 6 weeks. I have to wear compression garments on my legs for 2 weeks. I'm almost done. And I'll go in, no exercise. Absolutely no exercise, no lifting of anything over 10 pounds. I won't lift over 5. You can't do anything that will aggravate this area. The breasts are awesome. I have to wear a mastectomy bra, which I'm wearing for, I guess, 6 weeks also. I'll learn more when I go in for my post-op, when they look at how my sutures are healing, how the areas that they liposuct are healing, etc. You will be bruised I look like a battered wife. My bruises are still there. I'm so bruised. It's unbelievable. The compression garment helps with the bruising, but you're still bruised. And parts of me are yellow, parts of me are bruised. Hopefully by March 17th, that's David and my 19th wedding anniversary. I sure am hoping I could go out, have lunch. We are going to Commander's Palace where we were married, get dressed in something that'll actually fit. I had to buy all new garments because nothing fits over this corset. So I went online and bought all these maxi dresses for like nothing, including this one, to wear while I heal, and hopefully after they'll be like beach cover-ups. And then after the 6 weeks, I may have to wear Spanx for some indefinite number of time. So it is a process, but I'm going to tell you that my breasts feel awesome. And I already feel like I have so much mobility. I can't wait to exercise again. I'm going to follow my surgeon's recommendation and go to a physical therapist that specializes in Pilates moves. I'm going to follow the surgeon's recommendations to a T because I want to heal healthfully. And it's really important. If you do any surgery, now, that is my experience. Am I glad I made the decision to take the implants out? Yes. Would I have done anything differently with my natural tissue restoration, surgery, and recovery? No. The only thing I would have done differently is, one, I would have not flown to Italy and back and allowed only 5 minutes in between. I thought I could do it. I had done it before. This time it didn't work so well. I would recognize and listen to my body and realize that surgery is a major thing, whether you're having a baby and a cesarean, and this I've been told is similar to a cesarean. I don't know because I didn't have a baby. Any kind of surgery is serious. You cannot bounce back. Anyone that talks about she bounced back after surgery, bullshit. You have to be in the best health possible before the surgery, unless you're sick and you're going in for the surgery, but you have to take super good care, follow the surgeon's recommendations after, and allow at least 8 weeks to heal. Listen to your body. Don't try to exert if you're not ready. Right now, for me, walking a few blocks is enough. I'm not ready to do much more, and I know it. Another thing, narcotics make you constipated. I can't imagine being a drug addict. Oh, I don't like needles. I don't like narcotics. I don't like anything that plays with my head. I got off all the narcotics as soon as I was able to and approved to, so I could loosen up, as they say. And now I only take like acetaminophen or Tylenol for pain. I take a muscle relaxer to deal with the pain from the corset, because when you heal, your body itches. There's some pain. It will be uncomfortable, and you just have to grin and bear it. I don't take much else. I really don't. I haven't started taking multivitamins again because I want to make sure my doctor says it's time, because any kind of vitamin or supplement can play around with your healing. So that's my story about why I removed my breast implants and underwent natural tissue breast restoration. Would I recommend it? Yes. Would I have done it if I knew then what I know now? So if I knew then when I had my double mastectomy, what I know now, I would have chosen natural tissue breast restoration then. Why? Because I wouldn't have had the 2 other surgeries to put in and remove implants and all that discomfort that came with it. So I do recommend it, but you have to listen to your body and know your body and understand, are you ready to go through the process? Are you going to allow yourself the time? And are you in the good health, and do you have enough fat and tissue? Find a great surgeon. You can come to the Center for Restorative Breast Surgery. As I said, 70% of their patients are from out of state, or in the city or town where you live, there may be an excellent breast restoration specialist. Talk to several of them. Make a decision based on how they make you feel as a patient, how well they explain the procedure to you, how much time they spend answering your questions. They don't brush you off. They don't just give you a PowerPoint. Ask to see before and afters. Ask to talk to patients if the patients will allow it. Many patients are private. I was actually allowed to talk to a patient the first time around. In fact, we actually went into the bathroom and she took her shirt off and let me feel her breasts. And that was helpful. It sounds weird, but I want to know what the breasts felt like before I got new ones. My girlfriend did that with me with a natural tissue. She was so cute. She took me in the bathroom and said, "Here they are." I was like, "Wow, they look great." So you'll find yourself doing goofy things, but it's all because you want to have the best body you want and be in the best health. So I hope this show is helpful for anyone who is facing mastectomy and restoration and making this very, very big decision that will impact the body for probably the rest of their life. And if you have a friend or a loved one who's facing it, please share this show with them. I do recommend my book. I'm not always salesy, but I highly recommend my book, Getting Things Off My Chest, A Survivor's Guide to Staying Fearless and Fabulous in the Face of Breast Cancer. You'll see it won some awards. You can find it on Amazon, or you can write me at melanie@melanieyoung.com and order it from me, and I'll send an autographed version. Anyway, the key is I want you to be in the best health with the best breast health possible. Always get a mammogram. If you have your breasts, schedule your annual mammogram. Do it diligently. I always did mine on Halloween. Scary, right? Halloween, mammogram. Always did it. Always give yourself a manual breast examination every month. Even as someone who's had a double mastectomy, I still feel around my breasts because there can always be a recurrence in my chest muscle. Scary, but probably less likely now with all the surgeries I've had and the chemo. Always listen to your body. Always talk to other survivors. I recommend sharecancersupport.org is a nonprofit based in New York, where they actually will pair you with other cancer survivors who can tell you their story. It's for breast and ovarian cancer. Sharecancersupport.org. Share. There are many other wonderful organizations, and you can find them all in the back of my book. So I hope this is helpful. I hope that you never have to face this decision. But if you do, I hope I can be a source to you of help. I'm Melanie Young. I always try to be fearless, fabulous in every stage and age of my life, and I want you to as well. Just remember, you have a choice in life on how you choose to live it. Choose to live life on your terms, answer your own needs, listen to your own body, and always be the person you want to be, not what others expect and want of you. And always choose to be fearless and fabulous. Thank you.